Hey, and welcome to the first episode of By Myself But Not Alone. This is a series designed to focus on Metallica fans over the course of the 2018-2019 North American leg of Metallica's WorldWired Tour. Now, there are two things I need to say right off the bat. The first is in regard to the whole series. If you watch the trailer, my original plan was to go out there, accumulate footage, and send it back to my friend Alexander. He was going to chop it up and post videos a couple days after each show as the tour went on. Now, I overlooked one simple thing, something I should have considered. It was the inability to transmit large volumes of data through very slow hotel Wi-Fi. So moving forward, we're pretty much going to go out and gather the data from a whole leg, 7 shows at a time. Then I'm going to come home. We'll mix it up and start posting the videos with about a 2 or 3 week lag time. Now, the second point I need to address is in regards to this particular episode. By the end of this episode, you will not have seen what we intend this series to be all about. A couple things happened, and if you watched the trailer, I think I told you we're going to wing it, and well, we've learned quite a bit. So let me go back to about a week before the first show. My old friend Jeff stopped by. We were having a couple drinks, Jack and Coke, that's our favorite. I knew it wouldn't take long to get on the subject of Metallica. When it did, he's just shaking his head. Man, I can't believe you got a black ticket. He tried to get one, he didn't get one. So he had to cuss me for getting one. But he ended up telling me he was going to look into getting some tickets and maybe he can meet me out on the road. Couldn't resist. I said, well, why don't you grow a pair and let's get online right now. Let's get tickets for the Madison show. Now, he's a respectable citizen these days. He's a principal of a school. His schedule kind of revolves around the school schedule. So I reminded him that the day after the Madison show was a holiday. So I said, let's get online right now and get you a ticket. So we got online and we started looking, and he said, well, let me clarify this with the wife. So he told me he was going to call me the next day. I was pretty certain he would, and that's exactly what he did. The next day, he bought a ticket for Madison, and so he's just going to drive up there behind me. We weren't riding together because I wasn't coming back. Saturday morning, September 1st rolled around. He showed up at my house at 10 o'clock, ready to roll. I wasn't quite ready. I don't know if you read the book, The Pokey Little Puppy, when you were a kid. Well, the Pokey Little Puppy was kind of like my hero. I always mess around and I'm always running late. Anyway, we left a little bit after 12. We made really good time. If it weren't for the construction right when we crossed into Wisconsin, we'd have made even better time. But we got to our hotel in less than 5 hours. We were about 350 miles. Jeff did everything he could to get me a speeding ticket. There was road construction for 25 or 30 miles right when you cross into the border. The sign says slow down, fines double. Well, Jeff has to speed up. I just kind of kicked back and thought I would watch him get the ticket. But anyway, we got to our hotel in under 5 hours. It was a Super 8 in Windsor Lake, and we had an A&W right next to us. We stopped and got something to eat. We realized there was an attached bar. I'd never seen a Super 8 motel with a bar attached to it, the Hideaway. That didn't look good, especially considering who I was with. Alrighty, so after we ate, we went to the hotel. We unpacked our stuff. We took a shower. We decided against a drink at the Hideaway bar there at the hotel. A couple black ticket holders had arranged a pre-show party at a place called Whiskey Jack's Madtown. That just didn't sound too good. I mean, it sounded fun. We were looking forward to meeting other black ticket holders. But considering our history in a place called Whiskey Jack's, we thought, man, we might be in trouble. Are you sure you want to do this, Jeff? And he said, yeah, come on, you sissy. So the plan was to go. We got ready. We were running a little late, but we finally headed downtown Madison. The closer we got, the more and more we saw large groups of young people. I kept looking at him. Man, I don't know about this. We're heading to a place called Whiskey Jack's, surrounded by young people. Nothing good can happen in a college town with two people that are damn near 50 years old. We got pretty darn close. And Jeff looked at me and he said, boy, I hate to agree with you on this, but I think you're right. So I said, well, what do you want to do? And he said, what do you want to do? So, well, I don't know. I'm thinking maybe we'll meet all the black ticket holders tomorrow at the show. We can go back to the old Hideaway bar and have some drinks. We won't get ourselves in trouble. We'll go straight up to the room and crash. He said, boy, that sounds like a plan to me. We did a U-turn. We chickened out. We headed back to the bar. So once we got back to the hotel, we went on in the bar, got some drinks. It didn't take long. There were a couple guys sitting there They saw our shirts, asked if we were going to the show. It turned out they were going to the show too. We had drinking buddies. These guys were really cool guys. I believe the one's name was Marty. Never did get the other guy's name, but we sat there and we drank it up. But they were old, diehard Metallica fans, old friends. They hadn't seen each other in a while, and they just got together for the show. It was pretty cool to hear their Metallica past, and you know how they had both always wanted to see them, and they were finally going to get to. Kind of reminded me of Jeff and I. One was married, straightened up his act. The other one was still single by design. But we had a good time hanging out with those guys, talking Metallica. I went outside to have a smoke. Another guy keyed in on the shirt, and he said, "Hey, you going to the show?" We started talking. Turns out he was an old school Metallica fan. He wasn't going to the show. He had other things going on in life. He said he'd really love to, but I told him about my YouTube project and how I plan on documenting the fans in each city. So I asked him if I could interview him because he was an old school fan, been a fan for 30, 35 years. He said absolutely. So we went back inside the bar. His daughter was in there, and I interviewed him. Just basic questions, the type of questions that I plan on asking other fans the next day. You know, favorite album, favorite song, how many times have you seen Metallica? Stuff like that, real simple stuff. And when I checked the tape the next day, it was completely inaudible. You couldn't hear a word. I had my little directional mic. It wasn't plugged all the way in. So I just want to say, Mike, shout out to Mike. It was great meeting you. Miss Randy, it was nice to meet you. But the tape didn't come out is why I'm just showing your picture. So we said goodnight to our drinking buddies. We said goodnight to Mike and Randy, the bartender. Figured it was time to crash so we could get up bright and early. Well, that's not the way it really happened. We both overslept, and it was almost noon by the time we got up. So we got ready. We got something to eat. We headed down to the venue. It was probably 2:30, 3 o'clock by the time we got there. Again, Pokey Little Puppy kicked in. We got a good parking spot 2 blocks from the venue, the Kohl Center, and we headed on up. Now, I was pretty nervous about the whole black ticket ordeal. I just didn't know what to expect. For five months or so, I'd been planning it, trying to imagine what's this going to be like, and I just couldn't wrap my head around it. Still couldn't believe I have it. So when we got there, we saw a merch booth. We headed straight over. I had to get my brother Kevin a shirt. We turned around, and there's our boys from the bar last night. They looked like they felt as rough as we did, but they were both excited to be there. So we told them we'd catch them after the show. Jeff went and got in his line. I went and found the black ticket line. He just had a regular general floor seat, so I had early entrance. I had to go find my line, and when I found it, just kind of standing there. It was different. I'm looking at all these strange yet familiar faces. It wasn't uncomfortable, it was just a little strange. There were different flags for different packages. You had the Hardwired over there, the Whiplash, and then over by the building, I saw the flag that said black ticket, Unforgiven experience. That was my line. So I got up in line with, there's probably 100 people there. And I'm just kind of standing there, nervous. Kind of nervous. It's one thing to say, hey, I'm going to go out and I'm going to interview fans and get all this fan footage. But then it's kind of intimidating just to walk up and start doing it. So I just kind of stood back and wanted to get comfortable in my surroundings, and I'm looking at all these faces, strange yet familiar faces. And I knew that I was friends with 20 or 30 of these guys on Facebook, maybe more. But I'd never met any of them in real life. I had only known them in cyberspace. So I started talking to the guy behind me. He had brought his son to his first Metallica show. This guy was a big Slayer fan, loved Metallica. His son was definitely a diehard Metallica fan. Interesting conversation. Told him about my project. I got a picture of them, and then it started to rain. And I don't mean just a little rain. I mean big, heavy, hard raindrops. It was pouring. It reminded me of the St. Louis show last year at Busch Stadium, where we got a couple inches of rain, and there was really nowhere to hide from it. The rain continued for, half hour, 45 minutes. I mean, for the most part, everybody held their ground and just got wet. I kind of cheated like an old person, and I slid under one of the entrances, kind of fell out of line, but when the rain finally stopped, everybody went in. We met the people from CID. We got our tickets. It's pretty cool that with the black ticket, you still get a hard ticket. And then they formed another line inside. I was kind of wondering why we weren't inside before it rained, but hey, that's neither here nor there. It's not going to change anything now. When I was in line, I got to meet a couple other black ticket holders. It was kind of cool, but I could never really I never really broke out my camera and started doing the old interview, which you'll understand when you see episode 2 what I'm talking about. I just couldn't get myself in gear to do that. I was just kind of feeling out the situation and getting comfortable meeting some of the other black ticket holders. They finally let us in. It wasn't long after that I hooked up with Jeff. We had a couple beers and we sat back and waited for the show. Now I was really looking forward to the arena setup that they used in Europe last year. Last year in America we got stadiums, and in Europe they got arenas, and they've got these giant cubes all the way around the top of the stage, and they drop down and it's part of the show, and I was really looking forward to that. But otherwise I pretty much knew what I was in for with Metallica, as did everyone else. What everybody was really looking forward to was seeing the Jim Breuer show. The Lighted Up pre-party with Jim Breuer and his DJ Joe Sib. There were mixed feelings about comedy opening up for Metallica. I talked to quite a few people before the show, and I don't mean that day, I mean leading up to the show, and the conversation was nobody was really certain how good it was going to be. Everybody loved Breuer, but they didn't know how it was going to be at a Metallica show. So didn't take long and the show began. Jim came out a little bit early. He had his DJ Joe up on the stage. The crowd was starting to fill in. Now I give Jim and Joe credit. They were on the stage for over 2 hours. I don't mean to jump forward. I talked to him in Nebraska, and Joe told me that they set a record. They were out there for, I believe he said 2 hours and 14 minutes. And again, I think it might have been a type of an initiation. I think the band just kind of threw them out there to see what would happen. They were out there too long. They almost ran out of material. They held in there though. I remember telling Jeff, man, I don't know if I can watch this 35 shows. You know, if I make it to all the shows, this is kind of going to get old. But anyway, again, I give them credit. They did a good job. They hung in there. Metallica finally came out. They opened with Hardwired. They played a good mix of songs. They touched on their entire career pretty much. But they did bring 7 songs from Hardwired, and it's refreshing to see a band come out and play that much new material and have the crowd support that effort. So often you go to shows and, you know, the crowd basically is there to hear the classics. But they brought 7 songs off of Hardwired and the crowd just went nuts. It was a full sold out show, energy in the crowd. It was it's what we've come to expect with Metallica. At the end of the show, the old city picks. That's what everybody's chasing. This is the Madison, Wisconsin one. If you're not familiar with these picks, each pick has a different design. They're city exclusive. My end goal is to get 2 per show. I want to get one for my friend Alexander and his brother Jonathan from each show, and I succeeded. I got 2 of them. I got a couple other ones. They've also got one that, you know, one for each band member. Then they've got the album cover. So I ended up getting 6 picks, I believe. It was a good night. After the show, there was a big group of black ticket holders. I ended up hearing there were 153 black ticket holders at that show. That came from the guy at CID. So a lot of people showed up. I saw a lot more interaction than I had before the rain. It seems like that rain tore down the old wall. Any wall of hesitation that was there was gone. We walked up to the parking garage, a couple blocks, with a good group of black ticket holders. It was cool in talking to some of the other ticket holders that, you know, they all kind of agreed that it was awkward at first. We're surrounded by people that we probably know from cyberspace, but nobody was sure enough to go ahead and strike up conversation. Well, some were, but everybody was hesitant. Anyway, that was refreshing to hear other people say that's the same thing that was going on. I didn't feel like such a freak. It was just kind of strange. But anyway, said our goodbyes, see you in Minneapolis, hopped in the truck and headed back to the hotel. When we got to the hotel, we had to decide, did we want to go back in the hideaway and get some more Jack and Cokes, finish this trip off right? We decided against it. I didn't want to ruin my drive trip. Saw that the weather was bad. It was raining again. I was kind of worried about making it to Minneapolis because there was a guy in the bar the previous night that was talking about if a dam somewhere broke, a whole highway was going to be closed, and oh my God, what if I don't make it? But anyway, we decided against having drinks. We went on back in and crashed. So the next morning when we woke up, I felt real good about deciding against drinking the night before. So after we checked out, we sat out in the parking lot talking for a minute. Jeff had a great time the night before. He was kind of bummed out that he had to go home and I got to go on. But he was showing me how to use the old Google Maps on. I had never done that before, and he said, you're going to get lost, and he showed me how easy it was. So So anyway, we got that squared away, and right before he jumped in his truck, he had bought this cool hat. It's the old retro hat. I had one of these many years ago, but they added the WorldWired on top, the old Metallica, and it's stressed. You know, they tore it up for us. I didn't do that. But he had bought that at the show. I thought he was going to have a cool souvenir. He did get a couple shirts, but he took his hat. Here you go, man. Wear this to every show. So right on, Jeff. I'm going to do that. I've been doing that. I appreciate it. He jumped in his truck and he took off, headed home to discipline the children. I jumped in the car and I headed to Minneapolis. So that's that. That was my trip to Madison. Due to my technological inadequacies, combined with just the nervousness of the first show and the weather, we didn't really get what we were going for. If you stick with us, episode 2 is going to give you a little bit better picture of, you know, what we're trying to do here with this project. So we do appreciate you watching. We hope you stick it out for a little while so you can watch this project evolve into what it was originally designed to do. It's not going to take us that long. We're going to get to that point. So Madison, Wisconsin, thanks for the party. You guys rock. Next stop, Minneapolis, Minnesota. If you like what we've got going on here, we'd appreciate a subscription. Give us a like, a dislike, whatever the case may be. Leave a comment, suggestions, you know, anything. Let us know how we're doing. Until next time, rock on. We got a show tomorrow. First show of the North American 2018-2019 WorldWired Tour. Madison, Wisconsin, baby. We're ready for it.